All right, get ready for another exciting episode of the MCOE Best Practices E-Show. I'm your host, Lane Hauk, and today I'm really thrilled to have a special guest with us. Joining us is Justin Rondeau, the president of Invisible PPC. Justin has made significant strides in the marketing world and has a wealth of experience to share with us today. And for those of you who would like to learn more about Justin's professional journey, you're going to hear some of that today, but for sure, check him out on his LinkedIn profile as well. I'll drop that link here in our ticker for all of you who might watch this on the replay. But Justin, welcome to the show. Great to have you, brother.
Oh man, thanks. I've been excited to get on this thing. I've been watching the content you put out here, and when you asked me a couple weeks back if I wanted to get involved, I was like, heck yes, I do. So super excited to be here.
Freaking awesome, man. Really great to have you here, and really excited for our audience to. Now, I know a lot of people know you. You're not like an unknown in the industry world. Part of the reason why I wanted to have you on the show is because you got a lot to offer. You've got a lot of experience, and I think that's a great segue to start there. Let's tell our audience a little bit about who you are and your experience before coming to Invisible PPC, which is your current role.
Yeah, gosh. I think most people in marketing have a very unconventional way of getting to where they are. And I'm no different in those regards. I got started in the industry, like first kickoff is the joke I normally tell people is starting a small software company. You know how those jokes go, oh, it's this small one, but it was actually this really big one. It wasn't. It was a very small company in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Most people think I'm talking about HubSpot as a joke. Nope, never worked there, but I did actually do some work with them at some point. So email template software. So I was always kind of like the supporting marketer's role, like in terms of the software I've used or the publications I've been a part of. I was there for a couple of years. Then I went really into the media publishing side of things. There was a website, it doesn't exist anymore, called Witch Test One, early on in the conversion rate optimization days. So that was literally a weekly email we'd send out. That was, here's two variations of a split test. Vote on which one you think wins. And then we'd share all of the data and all those results. That was really my platform when it started. That's actually how I met my longtime now friend and previous boss, Ryan Dice. He met me at one of the events we had launched called The Live Event. It was in Austin, Texas, where I now live. He was going through one of my workshops, and then we decided to do some work together. Next thing I knew, I was working with him, and I was with him for 7 years. So I did everything under the sun at that little company called Digital Marketer. See, the joke works now. And everything between running their entire conversion rate optimization programs, building out training programs in analytics and CRO, as well as email, and then running the entire marketing department, to running the company for a couple of years. During that time, we launched a bunch of different pieces of software, did anything you could really in the marketing space. And you spent a lot of money on ads, had a lot of emails that we were sending out. If you're on that list, you know it. And then decided to go into the software realm for a year or two. Teamwork.com. I think if you're using productivity software, it's a great tool.
I'm using it every day. It's one of the core hubs of our entire white label agency today.
Yeah. I should connect you with Peter then. So you should talk with him.
We're one of their, I'm actually still one of their like old legacy unlimited users. Like Matt, actually, we're in their API. So I would love to talk to somebody. We use it heavily. We use Teamwork Project Management, Teamwork Chat, and Teamwork Desk.
Yep.
So
they're no joke. When I was running all growth and acquisition for a little over a year there, we were probably spending close to like $300,000 a month just on Google ads. It was wild. You can do a lot of stuff with that type of money. A very competitive space. You're very much in a red ocean in those regards. Yeah. Ended up realizing I like the more supporting agencies and kind of smaller kind of like world. And then I actually partnered up with my business partner, Avi Kumar, back when he was evaluating the purchase of Invisible PPC. IPPC has been around for now 11 years. We bought it 2 years ago off of Rob Warner, and I've really just been kind of super focused on that white label side of things. So that's my overall journey. So all over the place between kind of the software side of things, marketing training, back to software, and then going back home to the agency world.
What's the span in years of all that experience? That's an amazing amount of experience.
Yeah, we're getting close. I remember being the young gun, but now it's like 15 years or so of doing all that stuff. So yeah, a long time.
I would love to unpack 15 years of that experience because that's an amazing amount and really varied experience, like between Digital Marketer and then going to Teamwork, 2 different environments there. What would be 1 or 2 of the biggest lessons that you carried forward with you in an Invisible PPC today that you learned from those experiences?
Yeah, I think the first thing that really stands out, it's across all those experiences, is like what got you success in like particular niche or in a different area won't necessarily do that at the next one. So if you're hiring people, or if you're like trying to be hired by. Make sure you're leaning into the things that are most contextual and impactful for them. I'm never impressed by someone who's like, oh, I spent this long at insert big company here. It's like they had a lot of other like things that were pushing them forward that maybe that person had nothing to do with. So it was interesting because I had my standard like internet marketing type training stuff that works for selling courses, that works for all these other things. And I had to rethink how I did a lot of that stuff when I went into software. But like a lot of those core tenets apply, not all of them, because it's a different game. It's also a different game in terms of what you can and are willing to spend to acquire a customer. Most of the time, when you're not investment backed, like you need to be profitable within like 30 to 40, 45 days. If you're not getting that payback period, like when a bootstrap company, you're hosed. When you go into other companies, everything kind of changes in the games. People talk very differently in those. And so IPPC, like we're taking some of the lessons that I applied there, and we came over and bought the company. One, a lot of the standard stuff that I could do from like my digital marketer days still applies to this space. And then living in that bootstrap mentality and being a part of that for so long was something that we can really lean into. And it speaks to like our ad performance and then to our own ad performance for ourselves as well as performance for our clients and those types of things. I just think it's a matter of like making sure that you're contextualizing what you're trying to achieve based off of the niche you're in or their state of their business at that time to make the proper recommendations for the tactics that you'll be utilizing.
Cool. Awesome. Before we talk more about your business, tell us a little bit about you personally. What do you like to do? Are you married, single?
Yeah. So I actually, what was it? This will date the episode at some point, but on July 31st, I actually proposed to my girlfriend, now fiance. I did that in New York City. I was awesome. Oh, thank you. It's that's a weight off your shoulder once you get that one out. And then you have the new weights coming in. On top of that, I'm a musician. So I played the bass guitar and I've sang as long as I could. Played the bass guitar since probably about like 6th or 7th grade and still have one of those rocking right behind me. I need to play it more. Like life gets in the way sometimes. Sure. Avid hockey fan, Boston Bruins, still a season ticket holder, even though I live in Austin, Texas. Like I'm dying with those things. But yeah, like they had a preseason game last night and it was great. So good to watch all that stuff. And then, yeah, that's kind of, I think that and hockey, music, fiance. I think that covers 3 things. the 3 things that are most.
That's enough being a busy entrepreneur. That's about as much time as you have for personal stuff.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations again on when do you get married? Do you have a date yet set yet?
Yeah, we do. October 19th. 2024.
This year or next year?
No, next year, 2024. I'm not that crazy.
Funny story. My wife and I got engaged and we got married like just over 90 days later. Like we were like, screw that. We're not waiting. This is right. Let's just go. So we did it a little cheaper, quicker. We were just like, yeah, let's get married. But so that was it. It was a rush. Trying to plan a wedding and get people invited and everything else.
My
goes into that and the honeymoon and all that. 90 days was crazy. But anyway, funny story. All right, so let's go back to business. So what I know you said that you felt called to get back into supporting agencies.
Yeah.
And that's what led you to go to teamwork back to partnering with Avi and Invisible PPC. Why PPC? Was there all the things you could have gotten involved in with all your broad experience in digital marketer? Why PPC? Is this something that you had a core passion for or just a core subject matter expertise in? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like PPC is an interesting one for me because I was always the person that dealt with everything post traffic acquisition. So like a lot of my strength was on what happens once somebody fills in your landing page. What happens once somebody buys? How do you entice them more to buy? And those types of things. Mm-hmm. Avi was had way more strength, especially on the system side of things and subject matter expertise on the paid side of things. Okay. So we're like a full funnel duo. And how we like,
you got the CRO
marketing. Yeah. And so I bring a unique perspective that I think was missing from the company, not to like previously in terms of like, how do we make sure that we're pulling one of those biggest levers, which is that post-click experience for our clients?
Once you have the traffic, what happens then?
Yeah, exactly. And then how are we tracking it? How are we making sure that it's performing best for the client? So I always had like a digital marketer. I had my partner in crime there. She was involved with all things traffic and she sent me the traffic. I knocked it away. And we had a really cool rapport with that. And it was a system that worked. And then when I saw this opportunity here and like, what can I bring to the table for a legacy company like Invisible PPC? Like what's something that kind kind of drives you is part of it's like, I bet we can do better on that next bar, that post experience. I know we got the Google stuff, especially when you're working in local services. It's not rocket science in some of it. It's like, hey, you need to know the unit economics, and you need to know the right terms to be going after, and you got to be living in that negative stuff, in the negative Q, like search term world. Where you have way more control is when it's no longer Google's freaking thing, and that is when you're on the page. And that's where it's like, where I think what really drew me to the opportunity to support agencies in a space where they like fall flat. Like, hey, we're driving traffic to their homepage. Why are you doing that? Stop. You're losing so much money. You are paying people to leave. Right. And really helping deal with that. So that's what really drove it to me, even because I would never have said, I know a lot about Google PPC. There's people who know way more than me. Like my team knows more than me.
Sure.
And they should, because they're the ones doing it. But I think some of my friends might have been like, oh, that's kind of odd that you decided to go that route. And it's like, oh, it's because that perspective that I was sharing there, in terms of like, I understand the full funnel system, and I've always needed and had to hire for that person to bring traffic in. So I know that pain very well. I know how to speak to it very well. And now we know how to solve it.
So if I'm an agency and I'm not currently offering PPC, why should I offer PPC to my clients? Like, what's the argument for PPC over SEO or any of the other ways I could potentially drive traffic? So maybe give us your insights on to why PPC is a really important. Obviously, it helped you and your team grow Digital Marketer. It helped you said you guys were spending $300K a month at Teamworks. Clearly something was working there in helping the companies you were with grow through PPC, but unpack that a little bit for us.
Yeah, it's a concept we used to say at DM all the time of, this is the traffic store, right? Like, the idea is that you need to get in front of your target audience in the fastest way possible, especially in highly competitive areas. If you're breaking into a new niche or a new location or anything like that, you need to be able to make a splash fast. You need to go to the traffic store at some point. Like, you can do things on the cheap for a while where you're doing cold outreach for your agency, and you're for your own clients, then also doing outreach for clients or doing SEO for clients. But, and Lane, you know how it goes on the SEO side. You can walk circles around me, but it just takes time. It's an investment. It's like, what's the saying? It's like, the best time to have started doing SEO is 10 years ago. The second best time's today. And so they're like, not everybody's going to have that like flexibility in timeframes for things to be done. Like, they can see you can show them all the work that's being done, but they're like, okay, when does this start kicking in? When do we start seeing these things come in? PPC, PPC expedites that, but it does that at a cost. And there's a risk to it too, because if you're not good at it, you're going to lose that client, because not only are they spending money on you to run those ads as the expert, or working with us, we run them, whatever. They're also seeing more money go out because they're spending money on the ads themselves. So they're like spending, in their head, they're spending double. They're double dipping. And so there's a higher level of risk if you get this wrong, right? And so it's all about, one, setting expectations with the client in terms of like what performance looks like and getting agreements with them. But why someone would choose this over other things, one, it would be always do in addition, not in lieu of. But it's when they're looking for like leads to be coming in quickly, and then getting more predictable over time. Right? More predictable and more scalable over time, because it is chaos. No matter how long you've been in the niche, if you're starting in a new ad account, it is chaos for like the first 45 days. You're going to see stuff coming in, but it's going to be highly inefficient, and that's okay. You need enough data coming in order to then get to some of those better targets that you were looking for. But if you have a client that is in need of that wants to start seeing business come in the first 30, 60 days, PPC is going to be one of the only ways you can do that.
It's also one of the ways, and this is where it crosses with SEO a little bit, local SEO, is we have this thing called the Vicinity Update that was launched in December of 2022 that is specifically working against businesses ranking 10, 20 miles outside of where they're at, their location. I don't care if you're a service area business or you're showing the address. So at some point, you're going to hit a wall where Google's just not going to rank you in the 3-pack at a certain point. And that's where PPC comes in. Like, if you still have that service area that you're like, hey, this is prime business for us, prime business area for us, but we aren't getting past this in SEO, man, PPC in those zip codes is a great augmentation to a local SEO campaign. And you maybe don't have to spend as much in that PPC campaign because you're only hitting certain zip codes that are in your service area where you're not currently ranking. But anyway, there's a really good combination strategy, which is what I always tell agencies is, man, pitch them both together, like SEO
Yes.
and PPC together, because that way you're going to win, because the client's going to win quickly. They're going to start to feel some relief. They're going to have confidence in you that you know what you're doing. They're getting leads quickly. And then SEO has its time to take its effect. And then they'll be really happy 6 months from now.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that 6 months later feeling is good too. There's nothing like organic leads. There's nothing like them. Like coming from a PPC company, those things, but there's nothing like organic leads. They are phenomenal. They just take forever to get and forever to earn. And that's even like one of the benefits of like Invisible. Like one of the reasons like we bought it was because it had such a great brand name and it ranked so dang high. Like we have really great like organic stuff coming through because it's a big site
for your own company.
Rich, everything for our own company. Yeah, that's why we bought it to begin with. Like it had a great brand.
It had a recurring lead flow coming in because of your own organic rankings.
Exactly. We just owned it completely. So there's nothing like organic leads, but like Lane said, when you're pitching services, this is a 1-2 punch, and like you want to have other services to lean on. Because you don't want, if you give yourself a single point of failure, that's it. Then that's it. You're done after that. People can look past other things, but yeah.
I think it was at the event you and I were just at, but I think someone mentioned that the average agency churns every 4 months, churns their clients is 4 months in and out. That's crazy to me. Like I knew it was low, but I didn't know it was that low, like that fast in churning clients. Yeah. And this is where PPC can really come in to prevent that 4 month churn, because the only reason they're churning after 4 months is, let's just face it, is because they just don't see the results there. There's either they either don't see the value, or they're not getting results, or both. And results, just getting them some business is the key to keeping them happy and keeping them.
Yeah. And you don't have to. And like, here's the thing, as marketers, especially marketers like to nerd out about like, hey, what was the CTR on this thing? Or like, hey, what are these other marketing metrics that we all care about that we use as indicators for performance? The businesses fundamentally don't care about that. They care about like, are they getting more business, and are they getting more qualified leads? The business is the thing that matters most. But if they're getting qualified leads and they're not closing them, then that's another conversation. But it always turns into like he said, she said in those scenarios. So always focus on the one thing that matters. Don't try to sweet talk your way out of, but we provided you this and this. If the business isn't there, they're going to go, right? Keep it as simple as possible, especially like, and I speak mostly in terms of like local service businesses and those types of companies. Like just get to the brunt of it. Like they're busy people. They have actual jobs to do. If you're talking to a plumber, talk about jobs. Don't talk to them about, hey, man, we're getting you like form fills at this. They don't care.
And most of them don't understand it.
No, they don't.
So you and I as human beings don't like talking about things we don't understand. Like it makes us feel dumb. Like you're right. They don't like to talk about it. They have other things to do. They just want to grow.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you, at Invisible PPC, do you guys help the agencies in terms of how to sell PPC? Like, is there training on that, or do you host webinars, or something about that?
Yeah, we do all sorts of stuff. So one of the things we did when we bought it, so Rob used to sell like a lot of different trainings, like Agency Kickstart and those things, and there's all great content. I'm of the belief that we're not supposed to be a training company. We want to be a fulfillment company. That's what we want to be. So all trainings essentially like we made free. So we have a how to sell PPC to clients course. It's 33 minutes. It tells you everything you need to know, how to price the services, how to position them, how to do all that stuff. It's all yours for free. It's just like your name and email. It's all we need. We do monthly webinars where we either bring in like an agency expert, or we keep it like for ourselves and just kind of share data we're seeing. We just did a breakdown of like the structure and checklist for PPC landing pages, and then broke all that down, shared our checklist with everybody, shared our internal data for conversion rates we're getting, and then did live reviews. So we do that type of stuff once a month. And then we do have for our
you make that available to any agency. It's just like the Marketing Center of Excellence. It's free training, just free.
Yep. Okay. 100% free.
Awesome. And where could our agencies that are looking to listen to this find that training if they wanted to go check it out?
If they just go to invisibleppc.com/webinar, you can get all of our trainings. They're all there. We have those, as well as like we do have some paid stuff like for our partners. So we have like a partnership dues that get people like our white label case studies, like more interaction where I do office hours for people, or I'll just work with them on some of their stuff. We have like a lot of like our onboarding swipe files, sales call swipe files, all PPC related, but really meant to be like, hey, this is to arm an agency that's in the game to do PPC well and to sell it well, and then to hand it off correctly to us. It's more like enablement training versus like, hey, I'm going to teach you to be a 6-7 figure agency. That's not what we're trying to do. There's people that do that way better than us that we happily send them to. Right. But when they need to understand the nuts and bolts of PPC, we have that stuff for people, both on the free side of things, and for our paid partners, we have some extra stuff as well.
So if I'm an agency and I want to do my own PPC, what would be like, I want to build my own PPC team, whether that's be me doing it myself, or what would you recommend there? Like if I want to do my own fulfillment and I want to just start offering that, what would be the steps that you'd recommend an agency take in terms of, I'm going to say this before I let you answer that, because I'm going to say you absolutely should not be doing it yourself. Okay. If you're an agency listening to this and you're doing any part of your fulfillment, stop. Hire that out. Find somebody else that you can hire who doesn't make nearly the same hourly wage that you feel like you deserve, which is going to be much higher, right? Or want to pay yourself, and don't do it yourself, because if you get stuck in fulfillment as the owner of the company, you're not going to be able to have vision. You're not going to be able to have time for strategy. You're not going to be able to have time to really focus on sales and growth, and acquisition, which is going to be the most important driver of the entire company. And you're going to get sucked away into selling and then fulfilling. And then you'll go back to selling a couple months later, because after you've fulfilled, and you're going to go back to fulfillment again after you've sold some more people. And you'll do that dance for years and years and years until you figure out, I got to hire in fulfillment or I got to outsource to a white label partner. But those are the only two paths, not you doing fulfillment yourself. Okay, Justin, now you can go.
I don't have much else to add on that, because if you're doing the work, like you said, you're working in the business, not on the business. So you can't grow to the level that you should be if you're in that fulfillment trap.
Everyone throws around scaling to 7 figures, but that is an absolute fantasy for any agency owner who's not already at 7 figures today. You are not going to scale to 7 figures if you are doing your own PPC campaigns, if you're doing your own SEO campaigns, if you're building the website, if you're doing the graphic design, any one of those or all of them.
Yeah, because I could think of like maybe if there's a hypothetical, even if I tried pulling like some crazy numbers on like, oh, you're just doing it would be the most ultimate fringe case that you don't build a company off of fringe cases. Like you need to be able to have the systems and processes in place that you can get someone else to take that off your plate. Like I love when it's the greatest. I love it when we see new business come in, but like in my head, it's like new business come in. Every time I see it, I'm like, that doesn't mean any more work for me. That's great. Like, I still have that in my head of like, we're getting all of these new accounts and I don't have to worry about it.
It's such an amazing, I know when I got to that point in my agency, like there was an incredible amount of freedom that I really felt like. You feel freedom daily.
Like, and that's why people wanted to do this in the first place.
That's why you
became an entrepreneur, that you built your business to have more freedom, and then you become a slave to it.
Yes.
Going into that fulfillment trap.
Yeah. Man. So let's help them. I'm going to hire my own PPC person.
Yes.
To do this. Tell me about the pros and the cons of going that route. If I'm a smaller agency looking to start offering PPC, or maybe I have been, but I've been doing it myself, and I'm going, all right, I either got to do it the right way and fulfill it, or I'm going to partner with IPPC or something like that.
Yeah. The first thing you're going to be looking at, like PPC pros, especially stateside, are some of the more expensive and more difficult hires to get. When I was hiring for a paid media lead at Teamwork, it took me 8 months to find that person. They were making 6 figures, and they didn't do any of the like landing page development or anything. They were just doing media.
Strategy, just the strategy, and then the audits and the optimization.
Audits, and then internal implementation before they got a specialist underneath them to do that stuff for them, so they could still live in strategy world.
Wow.
So I think in the States right now, US hire for Google PPC is around $90K.
So just quick side question there. So this strategy expert that you hired, living in strategy world, who's got people below him or her doing a lot of the actual fulfillment, they're just living in strategy. Is there really that much strategy in a PC campaign?
Well, they were doing the fulfillment.
$3K a month. There's a lot more than if we're doing $3K a month, but
they were doing a lot of the fulfillment.
12 months out of the year strategy.
So I think I'll clarify that one a little bit more. He wasn't just doing strategy. He was kicking in. He was doing like the campaign architecture. He was doing that actual work. The only fulfillment work he didn't do was like ad copy. That went through creative, ad creative went through creative. So videos, images, those things, landing pages went through development and those things. So anything that was like could be assembled in an ad account, he handled at that point in time. And then eventually there was another hire. Yeah.
Okay.
Say again.
And if you're making that kind of money, what kind of ad spend are you typically managing?
That's probably around that price point. So because he was doing around that 300K mark. And if you have multiple clients that are kind of lower than that, you eventually have a break point. You're not going to be able to handle much more than that. Sure. Because when you're playing, especially if it's like a single client, that's all you're doing things on. If you need to be respecting that cash all of the time. And like everybody should respect that cash as if it's their own when you're running these types of campaigns, but you eventually run out of just like mental bandwidth. The complexity of those types of campaigns are huge. And that's also why like for SaaS, like we don't work generally with SaaS companies because there's a lot of complexity, as well as the business unit economics are very different than that of a local service company. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if you're hiring somebody internally, first thing you're going to need, and you can find people that are doing more of these things if you can equip them to it. Like if you're using like GHL, it's easier to build the pages and those things. But you're generally looking for somebody that can build the campaigns, get them live, articulate why things were built a certain way, unless your to your account manager, because I'm assuming this person won't be your account manager that's doing this.
Right.
Sure. They need to be auditing, and like at IPPC, we audit all of our accounts daily. So if you're expecting that person to be in there daily, like there's going to be a break point because they're a single point of failure. They can get sick. They can go on vacation. You're lacking duplication in these things. So in a lot of cases, you need to have like a full-time and a part-time if you're actually have enough people in place when you're doing internal.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yep, exactly. And then also you're factoring into like on Google PPC, like remarketing ads and just like ad copy. That's a little bit easier. But if you're doing like Facebook PB, if you're doing Facebook ads or meta ads, I guess now is what we call them. Now you have like a whole other aspect of things and like how to do targeting correctly, when to refresh creative, video versus like static, all these other things that are coming into play. So you need to know, one, how many channels are you offering? Based on those channels, like it's hard for a single like media buyer to be good at both. More than
I know ours. Exactly. Yeah, ours is really good at Google, but Facebook, forget it.
Yep.
I mean, lost.
Exactly. So there's a lot of things to go into this, and it's a high risk if you're and I know this all sounds like scare tactics, and I know, but it is scary hiring a high level employee like this.
It should be a good point. It should be scary because if you're spending that cash of your clients as if it were your own, like you wouldn't be spending that money carelessly or just saying, hey, my graphic designer, why don't you take care of the PPC campaign this month because Joe is sick. You don't just throw somebody into the fire to take care of a campaign if you're spending your own money. So don't do it with your clients either.
Exactly. No, that's I think a really good call out. So there's a lot of things to consider when you're hiring a media buyer. Are they like a full funnel like growth person? Are they just the media person themselves? And so you have a lot of things to clarify there. When you're looking at, then you can go in-house, you can do offshore freelancers, those types of things as well, where you're like, hey, I just want this one person to do it. Same thing happens. It's less expensive, but again, single point of failure, easy to get ghosted. A lot of other things that can happen from a one-touch freelancer
type of offshore situation. And the biggest one is getting ghosted.
Yes.
So this is from my own experience. This just goes back to when I had my own generalist agency and I was trying to figure out, do we fulfill? Mm-hmm. Do we outsource? Do we fulfill? Do we outsource? And in that dance, in those early years, I was trying more like a freelancer type of situation. And man, you got a client who's got a question. They ask you the question. You don't know the technical answer to that question. So who do you go to? Your freelancer who's doing the PPC campaign for you. And he doesn't answer his email for one day. The second day doesn't answer the email. The third day you send a second email, he doesn't answer. Fourth day goes by, and you're like, and if you do that with 2 or 3 or 4 clients and you don't get back to them, now they look at you and go, man, what is wrong with you? And so those headaches and frustrations can really pile up, and then all of a sudden you're putting out fires just trying to get a hold of your freelancer.
Yeah. And I think before I moved to the freelancer too soon, because there's one other thing that happens, any internal hire. This is just, if you're new to hiring, there's some things you'll have to learn really quickly. One, whenever you hire anybody, get ready for them to be slower and worse than you, if it was your unique genius, or slower or worse than whoever else was doing those things as you're expanding out. It takes roughly 6 months for somebody to ROI on an internal hire, to be up to snuff there. So be ready for that. I think also transitioning from, hey, when you have like a freelance relationship or anything, there's less mentorship and management. But when you have an internal hire, you have more responsibility to them as an employee than like just someone who's a freelancer. You need to be building them up.
You're going to feel the responsibility of your client still. So you're going to have the responsibility of your new hire and the client, and you're going to feel that for that period of time while they're getting up to speed. And you need to know, but it's really good insight, Justin, because he's telling us here is, hey, if you're going to hire and start offering this, be sure that you have that ramp up time with your new hire and employee and all that kind of worked into your equation before you run off and start selling it, and or plan on unplugging yourself because you've got this new hire. Like, you're not just going to be able to hire and unplug and go focus on sales immediately. There's going to be a ramp up time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I was like, ooh, that one's a big one. So I'm glad I went back to that one. And then I guess the last option too, and like, granted, there's pros and cons for fulfillment houses as well, me being one of them, being an option out there. One of the benefits that you do get from it is, one, there's cost savings on top of it. You don't have to manage people day to day. You can maintain the relationship with your client. So, and then hold us accountable on that end, or hold whoever the partner is accountable on that end. The other thing is, you get a team of people generally. So we avoid all single points of failure, and we have our own hiring processes in place. So you don't have to learn how to hire these types of people. We know the questions to ask. We know how to grade them and test them during that process. All stuff you'd have to learn still if you were hiring internally, or even going to a freelancer on that side to evaluate which freelancers to work with. So you work with a white label solution or a fulfillment partner or anything along those lines. They made it their business to be able to get the best types of people to do the job for you. And that's another load, like weight off your shoulder when you're doing that. I think some of the cons are, it's like, for us, we have our ways of doing things. We have systems of doing things. And so if you're a PPC pro that's looking to have people follow your systems for that type of stuff, probably not going to work. Because we know it works on our end. And granted, like there's a million different ways to skin a cat when it comes to Google Ads, but we have a process that we like to follow, and we don't like to move from it, because that's how we're able to charge what we charge, because we have these things in place. So you have a little bit less control, I'd say, would be the problem with fulfillment houses just in general. Lane, what are some cons on your side? Because I don't want this to just be pure hype for fulfillment. Like, I know you know the space just as well as us, because we work with the same types of folks.
The cons to outsourcing to a white label fulfillment partner? Yeah, I'd say the last point really is, like, the only downside is not having total control over how fulfillment happens. Like, you have to adopt that fulfillment partner's way of fulfilling if you're really going to truly sell it. So that's the one con if you're an established agency, or just are really, you like your culture, you like your systems the way they are. It may be harder to find a white label fulfillment partner who can plug into that. Your existing system. Other than that, so I know the big downside to everyone, at least it's a perceived downside, is the price, right? So I know that if I grow as an agency and I grow to 10 clients that I'm doing with a white label partner, whether it's IPPC or somebody else, at some point, is it going to be cheaper for me to insource that with my own staff? At some point, maybe it's not 10, maybe it's 20, maybe it's not 20, maybe it's 50. But at some point, a certain number of clients, a certain percentage of growth as an agency, will I just be able to put more in my pocket on the bottom line if I insource it versus still paying that flat fee per client every month to my white label partner? So I think that's probably the biggest downside. Whether it's real or perceived is a big different argument, because I know what is the cost of hiring. There is the cost of training. There is the cost of managing. There's the cost of having an HR manager to manage those people. There's the cost of an operations manager once you get to a certain size. So there's the cost of disc testing. There's the cost of sick days, and there's the cost of your own churn when you lose a new hire who you just spent 60 days training, and now they just dip out, and then you have to rehire and retrain another person. You know, all the different headaches that come with managing people, and the costs that are all there within that are really mysterious and maybe a little bit more intangible in some respects. And I think that's the perceived downside for an agency. It was like, hey, I'm paying PPC. They see that number growing. Now I'm paying I'm paying Quantum Agency so much every month. Oh, I could just hire one person and not pay them all this. And then, but they don't know all the other things that go into the people system that are all big time costs, and they're also time costs of your own time.
That's the other side. The time cost is ridiculous. Oh my gosh.
Which the time cost equals opportunity cost loss.
Yeah.
You're missing opportunities because your time is being spent elsewhere building people, managing people. And so that always is the big decision for an agency. Do I fulfill or do I outsource? Do I fulfill or do I outsource? And I would love to be able to actually build a calculator because I know the only reason I'm doing fulfillment today, white label fulfillment like you for SEO, is because I built it in my agency and have it. Now that I have it and I figured it out, and we've got it so systemized, I could squeeze our margins down.
Yep.
Give agencies 100% markup opportunity. So it just makes sense for us to keep that system going. But if I had to start all over and do it again, I'd find an IPPC and an SEO partner and a web development partner and not do any of that work. So because lifestyle and time freedom, it goes back to that.
Yeah.
And I know I was working 50, 60, 70-hour work weeks, just trying to manage people, then go out and sell, then manage people, manage fulfillment, go back out and sell. And doing that dance for 6-7 years was exhausting.
Yeah. And it does come down. I think you made a really good point on top of that too. It's like, what are you trying to build, right? Are you trying to build a company that provides you more freedom? Like, it's not, I don't want to call it a lifestyle business, because I think that comes with certain like detriments when you talk in those ways. But are you trying to build like a profitable company that's going to help you meet your goals, like personally? Or are you trying to build, like, because there's some people that just want to build a business. Like, they want to build like I want this company to be my legacy. I want people in here that I want to coach. I want to be able to mentor.
They want an office and people, and and that's totally great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. It's like, just know be honest with yourself. Like, what do you want to do? It's going to help you answer that question. Real
really
simply.
Good point. Let's just repeat that again one more time, like in the full thought of that.
Yeah. So like, when you're asking the question of like, what's your number essentially for when you go fulfillment, like whether you maintain fulfillment or like you're doing in-house or however you're doing those things, it really comes down to what's your end goal. What do you want to achieve? What are you trying to build? Are you trying to build a business that is there to be driver to and for your lifestyle, like for your preferences, like more freedom, more happiness, more whatever, and you're trying to do that in a way where it gives you more time overall? Or are you trying to build, like, is this your legacy? Is this the thing that you want to build a company? You're in the business of building companies, mentoring people, doing that type of stuff. That's what really gets you excited about stuff. Two totally different ways to do things, also equally great ways of doing things.
Yep.
Just be honest with which one of those things you're going after. And then that should help you come up with an informed decision on like when to fulfill, like with a fulfillment partner, and when to hire internally.
I think if a lot of agency owners were honest with themselves, they would realize that they haven't quite figured that decision out yet. They're in between, they're trying to figure it out. And I think this is a really important point, because once you figure this out, then clarity is it becomes available to you. If you're still trying to figure out, do I fulfill and build a team, and do I want to build a real like company and team and staff and systems and operations and all the things that go into building a company, again, nothing wrong with that. Great. Then go for it and do it and go all in. But then don't try white labeling, because if you're going to try to white label, then it's going to mess with what you're really trying to do. And it's going to deviate. It's going to distract you from what your goal really is. If your goal is to build an agency with MRR without the time demands of fulfillment and managing people, and you really want to just build a sales and growth machine, then white labeling is absolutely, because you can focus all your time on sales, growth, and acquisition. And so what I've told our agencies, when we're in a meeting or discovery, trying to help them figure out, do you want to white label or do you want to do this yourself? The big question is, do you want to sell your agency? And if you do, 2, 5, 10 years, do you want to sell it, or do you want to just, because if you want to build a company, typically you're not thinking sell in 2 or 5 or 10 years. You're thinking build and hold, maybe legacy, like I pass it on to my kids or I pass it on to other family members. You're not thinking sell. You're thinking sell, then you need to just sell and grow and acquire new clients as fast as you possibly can, get as much MRR going as you possibly can, because that's going to make the prospects of selling your agency much quicker and faster and easier if you have good growth, right?
Yep. And then, that whole thing, you have growth. And then if overhead is not eating into everything and they're seeing profit, then you're a very attractive agency at that point.
Yeah. And so agencies, where you need to focus on is you need to have a good tech stack. That's going to be part of the big glue that any investor is going to want to invest in, is, you got this monthly recurring revenue, but where's it managed? Right? So I got a great white label fulfillment partner. You know what? The investor can come in and use the white label fulfillment partner, continue using them, or they can decide they're going to insource it. They have their own team. They have that great choice. What really matters to them is the MRR, the client relationships, and the technology stack, right? Yeah. If you own the client relationship with your brand, your company, right, And you could be a one-person company brand with a whole white label fulfillment team, but the clients, the relationships are with you, your brand, your company. The investor's looking for that. And then how is that managed? Like what technology stack? So Go High Level, a teamwork project management system like that should all be part of your technology stack, so that when they come in and purchase, they see all your clients. It's all managed in a system with technology, and the client relationships are all clearly with you and your company. That's why we always say don't outsource the client communications. Like you own the client communication as an agency, so that you build a relationship with them. Doesn't matter who's fulfilling, whether it's an outsourced team or an in-source team. Doesn't really matter, because they never know anyway. It's just the relationships with you and maybe an account manager.
Yep.
So if somebody wants to engage with Invisible PPC, what does that look like? If they say, hey, you know what, I don't want to go down this hiring, training, managing type of insourcing path, I do want to outsource to IPPC, what does that look like?
Yeah, it's like the process is super simple. Like you sign up as a partner, and that gets you all the stuff I was talking about earlier, like our case studies you can use to help you sell, some other things. It also gets you our partner pricing, volume discounts, and those types of things, so that when you start really bringing on volume, you don't pay as much you get a percentage off, and you can keep your markup the same, and then so more money for you. It's great. Pretty much the process, once you have a client ready to roll, we shoot over an onboarding form for you. You fill out those details. We'll do some pre-work for your onboarding call, break down, hey, here's everything we're seeing. Here's what we're going to be, here's our understanding.
Armed with some knowledge with their new client or prospect right at the beginning,
exactly.
right up front.
Yep, right up front. And we want to know all that. Then we jump on the call, make sure we're all on the same page. Once we get off that call, we shoot to have have everything launched in about 6 days. The slowest part, the thing that slows us down, and candidly, and if anybody knows me or has talked to me or talks to me in the future, that I'm overly candid with everything, I overshare. But in this case, like the thing that really does slow us down where we don't hit those 6 day marks is just turnaround time and approvals. So we're saying, hey, here's the copy. Can you get the client to approve on this? Remember, these clients are busy, so you want to be prescriptive in how you do that.
They take a whole week to get back to you. It extends it to 2 weeks then. Yeah,
exactly. But we move fast, and we do everything from campaign architecture all the way to the landing page design and hosting. So we do everything for you. You don't have to think about a thing. And we build you like a reporting dashboard, all this other fun stuff. We also have one of the things that makes us a little different is we've been doing this for 11 years. So we have a whole database of positive and negative keywords we can apply right away, especially if it's in our smart niches. I have a whole breakdown of our 64 identified smart niches, generally in local services, that if you're in those, it's a no-brainer. We should just do business together, because we have a lot of ways to get the edge early on. And that's when things are being most critical in those stages. So again, it takes about 6-ish days to go. And then once we go live, like I said, we're in the account every day. You get a weekly recap email from us of what's going on in the account, so you can share that. We send you a monthly report to break down everything that happened. It's kind of the accumulation of all of those reports with kind of some more of an executive summary at the top. We send that to you before our mandatory monthly call with you, because we want to be meeting with you every month. I know some people are like, hey, I want to be super hands-off, but we need to be a partner with you. We need you to know what's going on in the account. We need to equip you with the ways that we talk about these things. So when you get these offhand questions, you're able to support them. And we just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. No news is always bad news, in my opinion, in this world. So that's why we do that.
For those of you listening to this, I want to call attention to what Justin was just saying in terms of just how the care and how important they feel it is to meet with their agency partners and just talk through it, or provide them that data, that those insights, that reporting. The reason it's important, number one, it shows care there's a lot of white label partners that don't care. Like they will never, as long as you don't want to meet, they will never reach out to you. Out of sight, out of mind is their mantra. So that's a different approach and a different type of relationship that he's describing there, which is unique. Secondly, this is the stuff that prevents churn. Okay. And if you're going to combat attrition or churn in your agency and try to buck the industry trend or the industry average of 4 months, then you have to communicate details to your clients. Like you have to let them know this is what's going on. This is what we're doing. Clients are, they don't hear from you and they don't get some real meat from you at least once a month, they are going to feel like they're just paying you for nothing. I don't care what the results are. If they don't hear from you and they're paying you, they start to feel like, man, this person doesn't care. And that's what leads to churn. Is the biggest thing is they don't trust, or they don't feel like you care anymore. So I just wanted to call it out. I know I'm sorry to interrupt you, Justin, but
I'll get
important for agencies to just number one, hear the difference in approach there, because there's a lot of white label partners who just don't care. And secondly, they're doing that for your benefit to help you not churn and to retain these clients longer than 2, 3, 4 months.
Yep. No, that's thanks for the call out there. We were proud of when we made some of those changes, because we used to be, we let people choose when they wanted to meet with us. We're like, nope, it's mandatory now. It's a part of working with us, because we knew how critical it was. And everybody who goes through those, they maintain their clients longer. It's just I need to pull some actual benchmark data from that, but I can see just from top level, the people that we meet with more often, the people that are more responsive with us, they keep their clients longer with us.
Yeah. Awesome. So we didn't get into, and I know we don't have time to get into best practices around building a PPC campaign. I know we talked a little bit about best practices of how to sell PPC as an agency to a prospect. But I want to just call back, and I'll put the link in for everyone. But IPPC has all this training free at invisibleppc.com/webinar. Again, I'll put it in the replay so everyone has the link directly as well. But that's part of why we didn't go into all of that today, is because they've already got all that done. It's there, it's free, it's there for agencies to go use as a resource to sell this solution in your agency, and then be able to really focus on what's most important, which is growth and acquisition. And that's how we grow our companies. Justin, anything else that you want to leave us with? Any final thoughts?
No, I think the big thing is just if you're getting into the PPC game, really ask yourself a question that Lane really leaned in on there of what do you want to get with your agency? And that's going to help you figure out who you need to be working with. If you do land on the side, if you want to be working with white label folks, I'd love to chat. And we have tons of great resources for you there. Lane talked about the webinar side of things. We also have a weekly newsletter. If you go to invisibleppc.com/the-blink, it's a newsletter that hits your inbox every Wednesday. It's supposed to be an actual insight you can use in your agency that you can read in under 60 seconds.
Perfect.
Is the goal of that.
Awesome. So we'll include that link as well. Justin, thank you for spending this time with me, and especially for our agency audience who are going to get to watch all this. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I can pull away from is, obviously, Justin and his team at Invisible PPC are experts. And you're not just, I think that's another point you made, is when you hire a white label partner like IPPC, you're not just getting one person, a single point of view, you're getting the entire team. You're getting somebody in Justin who managed $300,000 a month in ad spend. You're getting Avi, and you're getting all their team and all the training that they've imparted onto their team members. So that's a huge resource to have as an agency, especially if you're smaller. You don't have that whole team like that right now. But again, the big takeaway that was unplanned was just hey, if you're an agency owner, you are unclear about which path or which strategy you're going to take with your agency, and you're trying to figure out, am I going to be a fulfillment agency or am I going to be an outsourcing agency? Making that decision is critical, because until you do, you're going to be all over the map trying things, and that won't work. Make that decision. If you decide you want to build the company and you want to build the team members and you want to insource it and do what IPPC has done with PPC, or what we've done with SEO, that's great. There's no problem with that. Trying to do both, I think, is also a recipe for failure or just a very moderate success. If you want to have great success, choose one or the other, and then just go deep and then embrace a white label partner like Invisible PPC for those types of needs. Justin, thanks again for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you sharing your experience, a great amount of experience that you bring to the table, and look forward to just continue to build a great friendship with you as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Lane.